Good morning, Archie. Good morning, Pierre. And welcome to our crypto hour. Okay, let me just set the room up as usual. This is the GeniusU crypto hour. I know that you've been here before, but so that for everybody else who's watching the recorded version, we run this room every Friday between 8 and 9 a.m. UK time. And what we aim to do is to go through the bits of information, the news that have what has gone on in the past week in the crypto world, and also to have a funnel that where we can sift a lot of the noise that is put forward as news instead of just noise, and concentrate on important bits. And then we we open the room to question and answer session, so we can cover the aspects that are important to you. So when we aim to educate, make people understand what this what blockchain and crypto is all about, and also to to discuss important topics. And here, the importance is on what it is important to you and where you are at this stage, because we all have different levels of understanding, and it is important to to get you up, one notch or two notches from where you are now, so you can understand this space better. Okay, Duncan, would you like to have a word before we start?
Very nice to see you both here, guys. What I'm going to do is, we had a bit of a false start last week. I had a few technical issues, so I couldn't join and I couldn't sort of notify people. So it was a quiet week. I'd like to try and avoid that happening again this week. So I'm going to sort of get in the background and let people know that we're here in Zoom. Just for Luca's info, I can't actually share live to Facebook via your account. So I'm going to be concentrating on seeing if anybody wants to join us in Zoom. And it's been quite obviously, because I missed last week's, a lot has happened over the last couple of weeks, and I'm as eager as anybody to find out what your current views are, Luca. So yeah, I'm gonna butt out now for a while and let you take it away. Sue's here as well, so let's Sue in.
Okay. Good morning, Sue as well. Okay, there is a couple of things that that dominated this space in the last week, the last couple of weeks, if you're looking a little bit further afield. Okay, the one thing, there was a big conference, the Bitcoin 2021 in Miami. That was the 3rd and 4th of June. There were about 50,000 people that went to the conference, from a lot of personality involved in the crypto space, and also congressmen, senators from the US, heads of states from other countries. So it was quite a high level conference, and although it was pretty much concentrating on Bitcoin rather than the whole crypto space, but at the same time, for most of the public, Bitcoin is what they know and what they understand. So it still benefits the whole space. And the other big, huge bit of news this week, I know Duncan, you have posted about it already, is the fact that El Salvador has actually now approved legislation to make Bitcoin legal tender. Okay, and so we will go through both events, understand why they are important, and what especially the El Salvador announcement is seen as having thrown the cat amongst the pigeons, really, with the kind of reactions that we have seen in the news. So we start trying to pick it apart and understand what it means. Let's start with the Bitcoin conference in Miami. Okay, there are a lot of things that have been said, and to be honest with you, I mean, when you actually look into it, and there's lots of stuff online that you can find, and lots of videos about what has been discussed. Nothing from a cryptocurrency point of view, somebody that's in the industry already, nothing really new has come from the space. But what it has done is let the kind of the conversation, which sometimes can be insular in the cryptocurrency world, out to a bigger audience. And it was particularly important. Sometimes it's more important what it's not said than what it is said. Kind of if you read between the lines. In particular, I was looking at the the announcements, and the person that opened the conference. Obviously, the conference was being held in Miami, and it was the mayor of Miami. Now, it's a personality that was already known in the cryptocurrency world, as he was one of the first to come out in support of cryptocurrencies, and he actually allowed the employees of the council to be paid in Bitcoin if they wanted to, instead of US dollars. And in his opening speech, he actually came out openly and said that the days of currencies controlled by central banks are coming to an end. Now, again, this is not news. It's something we've been talking in the cryptocurrency world. We've been talking about this for years. But what it is news is that a public figure in the US comes out openly about it, because as we all know, with all with an opposition being up for election in the US, the politicians generally don't even put a foot out of bed before they've done a poll, to see where the public opinion is lying. So obviously, if there wasn't support with this idea, he wouldn't have said these things. And we have seen since then also a lot of other public figures and other states in the US come out in support of Bitcoin. The last one being, the Senator Ted Cruz, which is kind of like a big personality in Texas, which has made possible for state chartered bank in Texas to transact in Bitcoin and to custody Bitcoin for their customers. And this has kind of been a big move into the US, because the US has always been it hasn't been the first mover in this space. Actually, quite the opposite. It's always been difficult to deal in cryptocurrency in the US, and now we can see like a change of the tide, in the sense that is the idea: if you can't beat them, join them. And there has been like a rush of institutions, personalities in states to appear as cryptocurrency friendly. Like Colorado has announced, for example, now that you can pay taxes in cryptocurrency as well. And they're almost like fighting with each other to see which state is the more crypto friendly, so that they can attract investments in those states. And in this kind of like the same light, we can see the El Salvador announcement. Now, this is massive because for a couple of particular reasons. First of all, it changes the discussion around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies from being, is this going to happen or not? Is this true, or is it a Ponzi scheme? To, well, actually, it is true. Countries, sovereign countries are adopting it as their legal tender, and so the discussion is not, is this going to happen or not? Is who's coming next? But the big question in this arena, if you understand how the global economy works, and the way, especially that the dollar is supporting itself, it's not so much as many people think is with the strength of its own economy, but it is with the fact that the dollar is used as a reserve currency by many central banks and by many countries across the world. Because if you look at the example from El Salvador, for example, what they say, before adopting Bitcoin, obviously their main currency that they use for transacting value is the US dollar. Because they're thinking, well, we are not good enough to run our own currency, so we're going to use the US dollar. Now they're coming to the realization that, well, holding our value in US dollar is not safe, because they're printing so many of the things that our store of value is not working as a store of value anymore. And that's one of the main functions of money. Mean of exchange, store of value, unit of account. Those are the three main functions of money. And now the main one, which is a store of value, so that you can keep your money in the mattress and take it out after 10 years and still buy the same things with it, is not there anymore. So this is a big deal, because if other countries follow that example, that undermines the position of the US dollar as a reserve currency. And we've seen how hard they are fighting to keep that, because if those US dollars, they are kept in debt, US debt, and in reserves in other countries, are actually returned to the US and put into circulation, will have a huge effect on the price of the dollar. So it's we've seen how the dollar, for example, has fought against adoption of the euro as a reserve currency and as a world currency for transactions, for example, to take over markets like the oil market and so on. And now we really need to expect a similar attack towards cryptocurrencies, because this is huge. This is massive for the dollar, and so we need to be very, very careful about what is coming from the authorities, from the US, and how they're going to try to rein in the adoption of cryptocurrencies, not just in the US but across the world. From another point of view, the El Salvador move is also a marketing action, because they're not just come out and said we adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, but also attached to that there is the idea that if it is a currency and it is not an asset, then it is not taxed. And at the same time as they were announcing this, they were saying that anybody that invests 3 Bitcoin into the El Salvadorian economy can get residency, full residency, permanent residency in El Salvador. So they are trying to attract wealthy individuals and also business investments into El Salvador that obviously is a very poor economy and would be difficult to attract in a different way. Since they come up with this announcement, we've had noises from Mexico, Panama, and probably the most advanced one is Paraguay. That seems to be close to proposing something similar to what El Salvador has done for their own country. So I mean, the way I personally, if you ask me for my opinion, I see as this movement and the whole cryptocurrency movement, starting with Bitcoin, is starting from the bottom up. It is a decentralized movement, in a way empowering the little people. Okay, so anything like this will not any innovation in this field they're not going to come from established economies, because they have too much to lose, because they already invested billions and billions into their legacy infrastructure projects they would have to discard if they were to adapt this. But it is going to come from countries like El Salvador, like countries like Ethiopia, like Tanzania, that don't have much to fall back on, and that's why they are coming. They're choosing the best solution that they could adopt at the moment, instead of having to go with something that they developed in the past, because that's the way that they've always done things. Yeah, this is kind of, for me, it's really, really interesting to follow this space. And sometimes I'm watching the space a little bit like a spectator, being fascinated by it, because it's funny. But what I was saying before, when you start looking at the news in this space, it's almost more interesting to listen to what is not being said and what is said. And if you go through the ticker with all the news that are being announced, it's kind of like it's like a discard. And oh, there's one bit that is interesting. And one of the little bits, for example, that I just read this morning, and especially it's stuck in my mind because it relates to Singapore. And I know GeniusU is based in is a Singapore company, so kind of like interesting. And there was a little like a one-line news said the sovereign wealth fund of Singapore. So we're talking about here the reserves for the country, okay, the sovereign wealth fund. It just invested $70 million in the parent company of one of the OSL crypto exchange. Okay, and again, why is this important? Because we're not talking about me and you putting $500 into Bitcoin or not. We are talking about a sovereign wealth fund, sovereign country. They put in their reserves onto cryptocurrency. So I suppose there's, what you could say is, some of these people they don't move lightly. And if they take these sort of actions, it's saying something about about the whole space. And there are, this is just one example, but the more you read about these things, the more you find similar examples of billionaires coming into the space, hedge funds, famous investment banks that say that now they are kind of leading the way in cryptocurrency investment for the best customers. And this is the whole thing. You don't need to be Goldman Sachs best customer to invest in cryptocurrency. You can do it. Everybody can do it now. So the barriers of entry are really being destroyed, and they are letting the investor with $10 in Ethiopia being able to take part in the same project as the hedge funds are taking part in, and normally that you would need millions of dollars to access. So this is the huge change that the blockchain space is bringing to us as individuals, and it is even when you go back one step, 10 steps. When people created Bitcoin, they didn't create it for personal gain. This is all like open source code. So people, they're written the code for everybody else to use it. So nothing is protected by patents and for the benefit only of the creator of the company behind it. This is open source, and all the companies that are there, all the top 10 blockchains work on an open source basis. So anybody can see the code, anybody can copy, anybody can do whatever they want with it, collaborate with it or not. So again, just think about it. If there is one thing that I would like you to remember, is that this whole space is for the benefit of the many rather than the few. Okay, and a lot. This is why it's attracting a lot of brilliant minds, and we're talking about genius level minds here that are working in this field, simply because of this reason. They're saying we don't have to ask permission to change the world. We can do it, and we are doing it. And then let the institutions, let the governments worry about it, but we're changing the world already. And this is the powerful message that is coming from it. This is why I'm so excited to be in this space. This is, I think this will be the part of the news that I wanted to cover, and I think it's good to just concentrate on this without diluting the message, because it's kind of like quite a powerful message. I think now I would like to open the room up to to discussion and to questions, whether it is about this or it is about anything else that you want to bring up and you want me to answer. So anybody would like to unmute themselves and ask a question? Feel free.
Do feel free, guys. And also, if you want to post a question in the chat, I'll read it out for you. If you don't want to use your own voice, I've got a question. So a couple of weeks ago it was Ethiopia. This week it's El Salvador. Where's next?
Yeah. I mean, it's going on everywhere across the world. Another bit of news maybe they haven't mentioned is about UNICEF. And UNICEF obviously is a United Nations organization, and it was announced a few weeks ago that Chainlink, which is one of the biggest blockchain projects, especially in the world of decentralized finance, have used a community fund to support some of the UNICEF projects in the blockchain space. And it was announced this week that UNICEF is actually providing seed funding for about 10 different projects across the world that are working towards making accessibility easier for, especially for community in third world countries. So they're supporting projects all over the world, from Central and South America to Africa, Asia, and Eastern Europe, I believe, as well, in this arena, providing funding, which is significant already. We are talking about $100,000 more of funding to advance. And again, this is not being invested in the UK, the US, or any advanced economy, but we're talking about disadvantaged countries, and they can just sidestep, any second-rate, let's say, technology, and just go just use the Ferrari, straight away. They don't need to learn to drive first.
Nice. Sue's dropped a question here, and I've got a question in via Facebook from Andrew. What impact will this, or is this news having, or will this news having, obviously the things that you've spoken about? And Sue's lost me here. It must be me having a week off. What's ST crypto markets?
Sorry, that's short term.
Short term. So what impact will this have on the short term crypto market?
And the medium term and the long term.
Yeah, why not? We've got time. And also, I'll add Andrew's question to this, because Andrew was worried that it was a bit of a silly question, but I like those kind of questions, as long as they're not too silly. And it's linked to what Sue's asking. I heard that, Andrew says he heard that 600 billion or million, he's not sure, I think it's billion, came out of the crypto market recently, which is what caused the recent massive drop. Will we need to wait for the 600 to come back in for us to get to the levels we were at before?
Well, the short answer is yes, because obviously, the price is a function of, it's basically amount in the market divided by the number of coins in circulation. This is how you judge a market cap, is how many coins are there in circulation, for a particular project or for the whole market as a whole, and then you multiply by the value of those coins in the market, and then you come to the market cap. And if we see in the market cap reach 2.2 billion, recently, and we can check what it is at the moment. It went down to about 1.3, and let me check on CoinGecko. I can tell you straight away what it is today. It went back to about 1.7. At the moment, we are 1.6 trillion in total market cap for the whole market. Now, the question that Sue was asking as well, what effect does he have on the market? And we're saying, oh yes, so much money has come down. But maybe if I can show, can I share my screen now?
Yeah.
Let me show you. Okay. So this is, we're looking at CoinGecko now. But if I go on, this is a chart of Bitcoin in US dollar terms. Okay, this is in Tether, but it's pretty much it's one Tether is $1 US. So, what I want to show you, this is kind of like a daily chart. Each candle represents one day. Okay, so it's pretty long time frame. So if we have a look at here, for example, the price we are here at the end of October. Okay, let's go maybe a little bit closer. Let's talk about at the beginning of December. Beginning of December here, we were at $20,000. Okay, so you tell me, if you invested some money in 1st of December, would you be unhappy with the price having gone from 20,000 to 36,000? And this is the way to see it, guys, because yes, it went up to 60,000 and now we are 36. But this is an asset that is, pretty much doubled in value in the past 5 months. So obviously, nothing goes straight up or comes straight down. So there is going to be some noise in the way. And one thing that the market is telling us, because in blockchain world we can see the transactions that are going on, especially with Bitcoin. We can see how old each Bitcoin is in a sense. Let me explain that. Attached to each bit of Bitcoin that is being spent, we can see all the transactions that are going on leading to the time when it was first created. And the one thing that we can see is that there were a lot of new entrants in the new year, let's say 2021, a lot of new Bitcoin wallets being created and a lot of Bitcoins that were bought for the first time by new users. And these are the same coins that were sold when we come into these points here. So there is this kind of a new entrance that, you know, think it's great, I can make a lot of money in Bitcoin. And then when it started going down, they panicked because most of the purchases were made above this point, between 40 and 60,000. And there's two things that we can tell is that most people in this drop actually sold their Bitcoin at a loss. Okay, and most of the Bitcoins that were sold were new coins, so coins that were purchased after the start of 2021. Okay, and what is that telling us? Is that the people that have got Bitcoin and they bought Bitcoin a few years ago when it was down here, you know, maybe at 10,000, or even if we go back in time, even before that, those wallets, you know, those coins are not being spent. They're not being transacted. They're still accumulating. So when the price came down to from 60 to 30, we have seen that an increase of the Bitcoin that being held in what we sometimes is referred to as the one-way wallets. It means the Bitcoins only get into those wallets and never come out because they're accumulating. They believe in a long-term narrative for Bitcoin, and you know, they believe that Bitcoin will be valued in the hundreds of thousands, and so they're investing long-term for those cases. And this is kind of telling us a lot. But even, you know, generally we look at investment in, you know, with yearly time frame, and Bitcoin has gone up every year by over 200%. And there is no reason to believe that this year is going to be any, you know, much different from the rest. It's already grown by, you know, maybe if we go right to the beginning of the year, it's less, you know, it's not as impressive because it was at you know, about 1st of January, we were at 29,000. Okay, but it's still significant. We're still talking about, you know, above 20% on the year's start. But if we go back another month, then it's almost double. So yes, a lot of money has come out of the market from the top here to where we are now. But at the same time, we are in a very healthy position compared to you know, compared to a few months ago. What is happening right now? Let me draw a couple of lines here so you can see. You can have a visual. Sorry, excuse me. Oh, come on. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So we are in this kind of range. If you see from down here, this level that has held. Oh, sorry. I want to move that. Move that down here. In this range between, you know, the 30,000 level and this other level here. Okay, so maybe a little bit higher than this. Okay, it is ranging. As you can see, Bitcoin has you know, has been moving in this sideways since it came down. So on the from the short-term point of view, we are waiting for the price to break this range. Whether is, you know, if it is going to be on the upside, then we are looking to testing, you know, the all-time highs that we have seen recently. If it is on the downside, then obviously there is nothing here to support Bitcoin price until we get to the level of, you know, around 20,000. I mean, there is a small support around 28, but if we breach that, then we're going all the way down to 20,000. And what the El Salvador announcement can, the difference that it can make is it can bring a lot of retail attention towards it, and a lot of belief that this is something that is worth investing in. It's not just a a Ponzi scheme. So what is going to happen in the long term? Nobody knows. Okay, in the short term, sorry. One thing that we do know is that the technology is here to stay and is still going to be here in years to come, because it's making a real difference and improving productivity across the board, in a lot of different industries. So yeah, the technology is solid. We are the early days in the adoption curve. So it's been estimated that by 2025 there's going to be 1 billion users. But to be honest with you, I think that may come even before then. If there are countries like Ethiopia, like El Salvador, that bring millions of users at a time, in one week, like we've seen with El Salvador, then the numbers may start climbing a lot faster than we think. So we might come. I believe that by 2025 we are going to be probably to be going across the top of the adoption curve and becoming maybe we're going to have 40-50% of the world population is using this technology.
How will that, if I can just ask a question, of course, anybody else wants to jump in, you're most welcome, but I just wanted to follow up with what you were saying. If a nation like El Salvador adopts a crypto coin as kind of a preferred method than the fiat currency, and that has an effect on the price of the crypto coin in general, more countries choosing to do that, which will force the price of the crypto coin up. How will that rising value of the currency affect the economies of those nations?
That's a good question. That's a good question to ask. I mean, the one obvious answer is that let me just stop there. The only obvious answer is that it will make that economy more stable, and people will have more trust in transacting with that economy. So we make it more attractive because they can then it's more reliable. Like I can trust. I don't have to. For example, if you want to buy and sell anything from El Salvador, it's quite a complicated thing at the moment. You have to involve banks and guarantees, and, letters of credit and all sorts of things. Where now, when you know that they're using Bitcoin, you can just interact with them directly, and you know that their money is good. Their money, so you're gonna get Bitcoin back. You don't get a phantom currency that you don't have any trust on in. So it will make it like a more attractive partner to deal with.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And in as much as when a fiat currency is rising in value, then that nation's exports tend to become less competitive. And there's no real incentive. There's nothing they can do about it because there's no real incentive for anybody to adjust their prices because they'll be making less money. But I guess if that currency's value is kind of it's a world currency, isn't it? A crypto. And so I imagine it wouldn't have the same sort of effect on a nation's finances as if it was their own currency that was increasing or decreasing in value. It's an interesting thing, though, isn't it? Because I'm sure it will have an effect.
It's interesting because I think a lot of it depends on other countries adopting the same the same as Bitcoin as legal tender. And the more countries adopt it, then the more it just becomes another standard. And what I believe in is kind of like we're going through a period where the monetary system is changing. Okay, and we can all see, because we've all seen the amount of money that's been printed. Like in 2 years, they printed as much currency as they have, in the past hundreds of years, since the creation. So it's unbelievable. The amount of cash that's been printed is really like beyond comprehension. So it's kind of like the monetary system is unraveling in front of our eyes. So the question is not really will it finish badly, because it will. It's just a matter of what is going to replace it. And this is what we're discussing here. So there are people that are supporters of the gold standard. I think, like, in history, we always gone back whenever a fiat currency system has failed. We always gone back to the gold standard. But now we got an alternative. So are we going back to the gold standard, or are we going into kind of like the Bitcoin standard? And this is what we could see, the first interesting steps in that direction. That's why this El Salvador announcement is so significant and so important to talk about. Especially for this reason. Sue Jackson asked a question about
protocol.
What actually stops anyone creating more Bitcoin? It's not impossible. It's just very unlikely, because it is like any change. We're talking about decentralized projects. So to pass any change, you will need to have a 50% plus approval for any change to be passed. And when you think about it, would you vote for diluting the value of the coins that you hold? And that's the question. So the code at the moment is being coded that the maximum number of, it's not, the 21 million number is not anywhere on the Bitcoin white paper, but it's simply, with the fact that every 4 years, the reward that is being given to the miners to create a block halves, and eventually that reward is going to be so small that it's going to become insignificant. And at that level, there's going to be 21 million Bitcoins in circulation. And at that point, the miners will only be rewarded with the transaction fees instead of being rewarded with new coins being created. So that's what's written in the code, in the Bitcoin code. And it's very unlikely that the community will vote for the Bitcoin to be less valuable. This is why what stops any more coins being created. Nothing being written in stone. It can be changed, but very unlikely to be changed.
Very interesting. Any more questions, anybody, for Luca?
I've got a question, Luca. So
hi, Archie.
Hi. So with countries adopting Bitcoin, how do you get around? There's such big fluctuations in the value of it. How do you get around that problem? I share your enthusiasm for cryptos, and I definitely believe it's the way ahead. But I'm just thinking, if you were to buy something with Bitcoin, now, versus a few months ago, the value of it is halved. So how do you get around that issue?
Well, the value is halved in dollar terms.
Yes.
And this is the thing, when we compare, this is what you're comparing it with. And that's the interesting question. Very interesting question, because at the moment it's fluctuating widely simply because the market is still very small. But as it becomes bigger, then it becomes more stable at the same time. So we're still looking, when you're thinking, we're talking about $1 trillion, and it sounds huge, but the share market is 200 trillion. The bond market is 250. The derivatives market is about 1 quadrillion. So it's still tiny, really tiny compared to all these markets. Well less than 1% compared to any of these markets. So, it will need to grow about, another 50, 100 times before it becomes, significant on the world stage from the point of view of the size. So it's still going to be volatile for a while to come, at least. It's a good question. Yes, a good question to ask, and one that a lot of people are trying to get their head around.
It's really interesting, and I think Archie, that's what I was trying to get at. My question wasn't as good as yours because you kind of hit the nail on the head. Mine was a bit more open-ended, and Luca's answer to you kind of cleared up my question as well. It's only fluctuating because we're measuring it against the fiat currency. I imagine if you buy something and then I see what you mean, you sell it and then the value of what you've got's halved. It's only halved if you need to change that back into dollars. If you are going and taking those Bitcoins to buy something else with, then it hasn't halved at all, has it? You've still got the same amount of Bitcoins for whatever you've sold. But it's really kind of, I'm not a philosopher, but it's almost philosophical to me, that kind of, because we don't really know what effect it's going to have, do we, or how that's going to play out. But it's really, really the interesting side of it to me.
Yeah, no, it's really, no, it is, because it's almost, I mean, I kind of start thinking, well, then, you know, how do you equate that to all the things that, you know, say your staples that you buy in life? Like, so how many Bitcoin would it be to buy a loaf of bread? You know, or how many Bitcoin would it be to, you know, to buy a house or something? You know, so it's just trying to think in terms of Bitcoin terms, as opposed to equating that to currency.
And I think the other thing we're used to as well is, because all the nations, most of them have got their own fiat currency. The value of their currency, again, is only the value relative to all the other currencies and maybe gold, etc., etc. Exactly. Whereas with a coin, something like Bitcoin, it's literally the same wherever you are in the world. It's borderless and nationless, isn't it? So if the world did start to go towards adopting Bitcoin as its main currency, if you like, then it seems to me that a whole load of the problems that are associated with fiat currencies just cease to become relevant anymore. So the upside is seems potentially to be so much greater than any kind of turmoil and flux while things are changing over. But then again, you know, I'm neither an economist nor a philosopher, so
can I actually make things a little bit? Can I make things a little bit more complicated?
Please do, yeah.
Do any of you have any idea how inflation is calculated?
No.
And I have, especially because yeah, no, exactly that. But I have kind of like I'll tell you like a funny story, because I'm Italian. Obviously, I know how things work in Italy. Okay, and it's not so different from what's happening in other countries, obviously, in the way they calculate inflation. But as you say, Duncan, it's a basket of goods that is put together to calculate then how the change, the change in value. This basket of goods changes in value throughout time. But what goes into this basket of goods is the interesting question, because what happened in Italy is that they put this kind of basket of goods together. The only thing is that nobody could buy the bloody things, you know, in the sense that there were things that were put there on purpose to show that the inflation was at a certain level. And they had, for example, this is famous thing, they had this packet of cigarettes that you couldn't find anywhere. And they were kind of like about a third of the price of cigarettes. It will never change. It will never change in price. It will never go up. So inflation wouldn't move, because this was the tobacco part of the basket of goods. And there were other things that were in the same way, that they were in the inflation basket, but you couldn't find anywhere to buy these things. And this is the question. So everything that we deal with is control, and somebody is making that decision. But we can tell, you know, at the moment, everybody says, oh, the inflation is being really low. But we can tell that the money in our pocket buys fewer things, you know, on an intuitive level.
Yeah, they're not particularly. Sorry.
No, so it goes against what's being announced.
They're not particularly swift either, are they, with their baskets? Because I was reading something a few years ago. You know, I think it was like 2018 or something before they decided it might be relevant to put a mobile phone in the basket, because most people buy mobile phones, for example. And I think it was like, you know, sometime in the 1990s when they took thimbles out of the basket or something. Really, they're not very swift. And I didn't realize the penny had never dropped with me that, of course, what an easy way it is for them to manipulate the official inflation rates by controlling what goes in and out of the basket. I just thought they were incompetent, but actually they're corrupt, aren't they?
Well, obviously, you know, from a monetary point of view, especially, you know, the inflation rate is linked to the interest that they have to pay on the government debt. And so inflation rate goes up is a big problem, especially with countries that are hardly capable of paying the interest on their debt, let alone the capital. So, you know, I was talking about this, you know, even a few years ago, even before cryptocurrency, I was thinking, you know, after 2008, really, and I know that a lot of people wouldn't understand what I was saying, because I tend to jump 20 years into the future with with the things I think about. I was thinking we will be at a level where we have to redefine the meaning of money. You know, what it means and how it is. You know, how we define money. because if we carry on this level, we're just going towards a cliff. We can, no country, whether it's the EU, whether it's the US or Japan, will be able to repay ever their national debt. So, as it gets bigger and bigger, obviously, and it gets less supported by countries, we'll be getting into the situation where the interest on the debt is going to be bigger than the GDP that's being produced in the country for that year. So it's like you having a credit card debt that you can never pay back. Just thinking about that on, instead of a personal level, think of it of a national level. So what happens to you when you are in that situation? Just the answer. So what we don't know is that what happens to the country when the country is in that situation. And then even more when every country in the world is in the same situation. And this is the question. This is the question that is being answered at the moment. What do you do when the monetary system worldwide is collapsing? What do you? It's fine. El Salvador can use the US dollar instead of the El Salvadorian dollar, whatever. But what happens is all the currencies in the world are going the same way. What do you use then? And this is what we've been discussing this morning, and I find very, very interesting.
This is very interesting. And I mean, like you said, traditionally the money would start to go into things like gold. It's not easy to spend gold, is it, on packets of cigarettes and bottles of milk and things like that. So it's like what you were saying earlier, that's always been the kind of traditional reserve to go to when currencies are falling. We've never had an alternative before, have we, in the shape of cryptos? So
no, exactly.
So useful.
So we were talking right now, thinking, are we going back to the gold standard like we were before 1971? Or instead, now we have an alternative. So we can choose, right? Do we go back to a gold standard? Do we go to a synthetic standard, which is represented by either Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies? Even in the stable coin world, that there are many stable coins that are pegged to the underlying asset. It's generally a national currency, that could be gold, it could be other things. There are some stable coins that are not pegged to any particular asset, but they are what is called synthetic. So they're calculated through algorithms and connected to cryptocurrency values rather than the dollar or other currencies. So this is already being worked on, and there are many projects in this space. It's just a matter of like any idea, is just a matter of adoption, and which one will be adopted by the majority. So, yeah, and you're right about I spend too much time with Mr. Hamilton. Yeah.
Well, I didn't say too much. I don't know how long you have to spend to get 20 years ahead, but so it's clearly enough anyway. Anybody else got any questions?
Shifting the mindset.
If you haven't got questions, I'm sure Luca would be happy to. I mean, I suppose it is in the form of a question, isn't it? But anything, any kind of knowledge gaps or anything like that, maybe that could be explained again, please feel free to ask. And also, I mean, without having to go into actual specifics, anybody got any input as to how your portfolio has been going over the last week or so since I've seen you, at least? I mean, mine's been pretty stable since the kind of back end of it fell out a couple of weeks ago. But and I think, like a lot of us, one kind of thing that I'm glad, because I want to have skin in the game. But of course, we did have this sort of sit back and look at the situation a week or two ago, and we thought, well, it's kind of now or never, isn't it? Because it could go down a little bit more, but if you don't get in, you're never going to know. And I think for a lot of us at that stage, I'd moved into a stable coin to see what had happened, and it has gone down a little bit further since, but not very much at all. So I feel quite happy with how that's kind of panned out. I did lose quite a lot in the drop, but my timing wasn't altogether disastrous. Where's everybody else? How have they felt that? Are people seriously in pain, or did anybody sort of put a plaster on it halfway through the pain, or like I did? Where are we at?
I've just been going shopping, so I've been buying some more cryptos and taking advantage, of the dips.
Great, yeah. Andrew says he's reluctant to invest more, and this is something that it's not specifically to what Andrew says, but I find myself reluctant, and sort of the opposite to you, Archie. And I know there are a lot of people saying just, don't worry, it's value, but I still feel a little bit reluctant. Andrew says he's reluctant to invest more if every time China gives their opinion or Elon Musk says something about crypto, it's going to go down.
Yeah, but that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, it's counterintuitive, and this is a lot of investment. I'm not just talking about cryptos, but think about the usual thing, buy fear and sell greed, and that's the thing, because everybody else is thinking in a particular way. You think, oh my God, what's happening? What am I doing? That is the exact time where investing makes sense.
Mm.
What I've the kind of attitude that I've taken is that in any market situation, you must have a strategy for if the price goes up, if the price goes down, or if the price goes sideways. So I have kind of rebalanced my portfolio in a way. I kind of investing more money in projects that are more solid, so that I know that if the price goes down, they won't be affected as badly as some of the more risky, the most speculative projects. Now, obviously, it will have an effect as well if the price goes up. So you probably won't gain as much if the price goes up. But then I can still rebalance the portfolio at a following date, because what generally happens is that the big projects move first anyway. And then the smaller projects follow. So it is. I think it is a good time. It's a value time at the moment, as the market has been quite depressed. But you still have to take. When you invest, you still have to take a punt. You can take an educated guess, but it is still a guess nonetheless. Yes, you got to be aware that the price can go down as well as up. And so, what everybody's saying in this space is just put in money that you can afford to lose. But what we're seeing every day, and that's why I keep talking about these things, about the announcement from, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Singapore. And there is smart money now that's moving into the space. And these are kind of there are organizations that wouldn't come anywhere near crypto a couple of years ago. Not even being in the same room where that is being discussed, because it could kind of tarnish their reputation. And these are kind of these are the kind of investment funds and smart money that's moving into the space that will makes the whole sector more visible across the world. And so it makes it to the individual person like you and me thinking, actually, it is a real asset. I'm not just gambling. It's not just like a Ponzi scheme that could work for me or not, but this is a real asset. And like all real assets, you can invest money in property and lose money because property prices go down. Nothing is guaranteed in life. The only thing you can guarantee your money if you put it in a savings account and you get 0.1%. Fine, good luck with that. But apart from that, this is just like what I keep saying to everybody that works with me. It kind of risk works in tandem with reward. So as you increase the risk, you increase the reward. If things go well, but also if things go badly. But having said that, if somebody even is the attitude to risk is very conservative, there are ways in the crypto space that you can just park your money on the side in, as Duncan was saying, stable coins. Instead of getting paid 0. nothing in the bank account, you get paid 8, 9, 10, 12%. So even if you're not confident to actually invest money in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other coins, even if you don't exchange your money for a stable coin, but even if you leave it in dollars or pounds, you can get interest rates that are 5, 6, 7%. So it's kind of like for me, is a kind of no-brainer, to at least do that, even if you're not confident to enter the market full on. But if it's your first steps into the cryptocurrency, just start small, like everything else. But the moment that you invest even $100 in something, I guarantee you that you look at the price at least once a day, and you look at the news. You look at the news of that thing that you invested in, because it's the way things work, and you will never learn just by reading things on an intellectual level or having what they call paper trading account, because your emotions are not involved. So you just start small, but do start. That's what I'm saying. So don't put all your eggs in one basket, but put a little bit in it, and you'll be surprised by how much you absorb and how much you learn.
Luca, what I would like to say, and just to go back to my own personal situation and portfolio, this is genuine what I want to say, and it's going to sound like, oh, Duncan's just Luca's shill, but what gave me the confidence to go back in and go take my money back out of stablecoin and put them into other cryptos was the meetings that I had with Luca. Because I was pretty terrified after having taken a little bit of a hit of just making the same mistake again. But I also knew that I shouldn't be sitting on the sidelines, and I should be in. And having a little bit of background information about some of the coins and the projects behind them was really, really useful. Because you do get the feeling, as Luca keeps telling us, if you're investing in something with an actual project that you can believe in behind it, it's a lot easier to handle having your money sat in that than something that's got a picture of a dog on it and you don't know anything about it, but somebody else has told you it's worth buying. There's that, but then the other thing of spreading your investments a little bit more, which is what I've done. More broadly, with the knowledge that they're not, if things start to come back up, they're probably not going to come back up quite as quickly as if you had them all in the latest, most fashionable coin. But I've also noticed that even after doing it, there's been a little drop, but it hasn't been anything like as severe as the movements I was seeing when I had nearly all my portfolio in one of the coins that I fancied that week. So it's given me a lot more confidence. And the main thing is I am sleeping at night now.
Yeah.
So that's really the main thing. And I do check them every day, but I'm not obsessed anymore, because I just feel like my little basket there is probably slightly more stable than I could make it by tweaking anyway. So I can leave it there and watch. So it's been great. And that isn't a plug. It's genuine. It's made a big difference to me. And just the crypto hour chats alone without any of the paid stuff, it really sorts you out. So that's just a big thank you from me anyway, Luca.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Duncan. It's kind of like it's one of the main things that one of my main aims is to be able to sleep at night, because I did trading before, but was in foreign currency, the options and futures. But I must say that when I was doing it, I was a nervous wreck, and I don't really wanna go there. Yes, it can be very profitable, but at the same time, as I got older, I value quality of life above money.
I was just going to say, are we getting a bit older?
If you can have both, then why not? That's the thing. And there's lots of ways of increasing or making your money work for you. This is one of the risky ones, but there are lots of other ways as well. So I'm not saying do everything with crypto, but just educate yourself, to invest your money. And there are lots of brilliant people in GeniusU that can help you with different aspects of it, and just like a little tile in this in your investment portfolio, let's say. But just educate yourself, and you can't go wrong with that, because you learn something. And by the way, I just wanted to put here in the chat room, I put my Calendly link. So if anybody, I have some time today and tomorrow morning. If anybody wants to have a chat with me and talk about the personal circumstances, then I'm quite happy to talk to you. So use the link. Andrew, you keep asking that question every time. The easiest way to find out what coins are doing what projects. It's just like a hard work. Basically, go and follow each coin, and look through, go onto their website first. That's number one. So so you see what they're doing, and also read what goes on in the social media. That's a good shortcut. If you go into CoinGecko, there are links to each. You go into each coin, and there are links to their social media accounts, generally on Reddit, Facebook, and whatever other community they use. So that's a good way of finding out what's going on without having to read. To be honest with you, reading the white paper bores me to death. and although you need to do it, is just telling you about the vision that the company, the project is trying to achieve. It doesn't tell you very much about how far they are into that vision, into making it happen. That is something that you find out from other channels, but it's, there is no shortcut apart from apart from going somewhere that has done the research already and is willing to pass it on to you. But if you're doing it yourself, it's it's took quite a few days aside that you can dedicate to investigating the single projects and start reading about them.
I'd be interested to know if Andrew, when he says the easiest way, if he means the most efficient way or the laziest way. Because he's not a lazy person at all. He does more hours than the rest of us here. He's actually in our accounts department. But I know exactly where he's coming from, because there's just so much. You're just all constantly looking for shortcuts, aren't you? Or you get the impression that Luke has got some magic buttons that we can't get hold of that gives him all this information. And it just turns out that there's nothing really that can replace time and application, is there, I guess?
Yeah, you know what, Duncan? Is I do every morning. I have a room on Clubhouse, okay, and I go through the news of the day. Now, when you look through the news of the day, there might be 50 bits of news, and out of those, there's maybe 2 or 3 that are worth looking at, even worth opening and reading the article about. And that's the real problem. And this is what I think I can understand, Andrew, and what you're saying, because there is just so much going on. So it's Simone, I generally use crypto panic, which is sort of like a Reuters, a Bloomberg of crypto news. But again, they're just reporting. They're just collecting the news all that come from different channels, and then you go into open each bit of news that you find interesting, and then you go on to read the articles and so on, or the videos that they refer to. Crypto Panic, I was referring to.
Crypto Planet.
It's easy. You can find it. Crypto Panic. Yeah. Kind of like
Right, Panic.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you said. Not
yeah, Crypto Panic. I think it's cryptopanic.com if I check. Yeah, it's cryptopanic.com.
I've been in a few of those.
Yeah, kind of like an apt name, isn't it, for the industry in general? But then even then, there is a lot there, and they're just an aggregator. Okay, so there are no opinions as such. Then even if they refer you to an article, and then Cointelegraph is just one news channel, and it's not reliable 100%. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say to everybody. A different crypto news channels have got their own agenda. So it's whenever you read something, you need to read it through different sources because they have got conflicting agendas. Okay, so it's difficult. It takes time. It takes time they need to invest to start reading between the lines and understand which bits of information to pay attention to. There isn't one that will say yes, they are brilliant and everything they say is gospel. I will not just rely on any one source of information to tell you everything that you need to know. It just takes time. It takes a lot of different sources to make your own mind up on something. So that's one bit of news. And if you say, obviously, if you look at Crypto Panic, there's a lot of Cointelegraph articles that they refer to, as there are many other crypto news channels that they refer to. How much time a day do you spend on updates? It really depends on what goes on in in the market. There are slow days where literally there's not much going on, and there are days where, like last week, where there is a lot going on, and then you spend several hours every day, reading and listening to stuff. Some days you just think, well, nothing goes on, like 5 minutes and you're done, and some days it might take a few hours. So it really market led, by what's going on. But any apart from news, I look forward in. I am in different communities as well. They are connected to some of the projects that I follow more closely. I listen a lot to. I listen a lot to what goes on in those communities, because I'm interested in the in the project behind it. And that you can do it yourself and join the community in any variety of different projects. Obviously, there are 8,000 projects. You can't follow them all, but if you go through the list, if you go down the list and start having your own records of what goes on in the different projects, then you can narrow the list and just concentrate on what's interesting to you. We all got different experience. We got different areas of interest, and you don't need to follow them all. You don't need to follow every project, every coin. Just concentrate on a few. Really, I would say, especially if you're a beginner, have a quick look through the first maybe 100 projects, and you can go in CoinGecko. They're all arranged in order by market cap. So you can have literally in maybe 2 or 3 hours, you can go through, skim through, all those projects, and then concentrate on maybe 5 to 10 that you want to keep an eye on. And please switch the Facebook, tips and things that come from everywhere off, because everybody was saying, oh, well, I've got this coin that will going to grow like 50 billion%, or this other project that's fantastic is going to beat them. It's like, forget all that. Just do your own research, and keep following, even after you have your money in one of them. Keep an eye on on the project, because things change all the time. There might be competitors that that take their place. They might be coming up with something new that is worth putting more money in. Lots of different things to consider. But focus is maybe the one thing that I would advise any beginner to have. Just focus on a few projects, not all of them. Otherwise, you go crazy.
And we don't want to go crazy, do we?
Yeah.
Wonderful, Luca. Thanks so much. It's just a value-packed hour and more, isn't it? Any final words from anybody? I think, Luca, what is this? Are you like on the back of 2 hours of Clubhouse, or do you have a little break because we have a chat, don't you? But you must have been talking cryptos since really early this morning now for quite some time.
Yeah, I do an hour a day, 6 to 7 a.m.
Right.
UK time.
So this is 2
my
hours
regular
so
thing,
far.
and sometimes I'm asked to speak as a guest in different rooms. So that varies, obviously, because they're not my scheduled rooms, but as and when.
Okay, and just to recap, am I right in thinking that if anybody wanted to join you there, you can send them an invite, and they would need to ask you?
Yes, definitely. Then send me a message and I'll send you an invite, because in Clubhouse, I mean, if you're not on it already, you need to be introduced by somebody else. And if you don't know anybody that's on it already, then you go in a queue. It might take a while. If I give you a link, then you can jump in the queue.
Cool. And I've just dropped in again the link for Luca's Calendly. If you missed that, he has got a little bit of time this afternoon and in the morning or something like that for a quick chat if anybody wants one, which is nice. You're just the guy that keeps on giving, aren't you, Luca?
Well, I think you know what, there's always in this community we talk a lot about purpose, and I was talking, we did masters recently, and I was talking to Jan Polak, one of the mentors, and he was asking me kind of like, okay, would you still be doing this if you were a billionaire? And the answer is yes, because for me this ticks all the boxes, because I love, really, education is probably my main driver. I love learning, and in this area you're forced to learn every day, and I love seeing things grow. And it's not just a single, the one share or one stock that you see grow, but it's the whole community that you see growing. And the other things that I got that motivates me is freedom. And this, not just for myself personally, but it allows a lot of people to achieve freedom. So I'm really motivated to be in this space, and I want to, obviously I am doing it as a business as well, but I want to help as many people as possible to get involved, because I think it's a great place to be.
I'm sure that you're learning from me and Andrew as well at the same time. I mean, if there's anybody to watch for, like, what not to do, then you've got two perfect guys here to support you.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know. Oh, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everybody who's joined us. And of course, we're going to be here next week. Anybody who's is Gem, don't forget, we've got Roger's live Gem call next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Singapore time with two really great mentors. And yeah, book a quick call with Luca if you wish. If you should be in his community by now, the Crypto Investors Club on GU. So please join that, and we're going to see you here next week.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, if anybody, I'm online at the moment, so if anybody wants to request access to the Crypto Investor Club, I can approve it straight away. Okay.
Let me just quickly, before we go, if anybody hasn't got it, let me drop the link into the chat one last time before we sign off. Bear with me, that's not quite the correct one. There you go, guys. That's the community. We'll see you there. And if you come up with any news or comments of your own in between these Fridays, then that's the place to drop them for Luca and for the rest of us in the community. So see you there.
Yes, and also where I am going to put the recordings in that circle as well, in the library section. So as soon as the recording is ready on Zoom, and I can edit it, then it will be on the thing later this afternoon. Okay.
Marvelous. And I think we all know that where these calls are now. Just wanted to make sure, we've put the events into Luca's circle for the next 8 weeks, I think, just to serve as a reminder. But the Zoom link will stay the same. So yeah, you can find the events there, but the Zoom link will be the same anyway. So hope to see you all next Friday.
Okay, goodbye everybody. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.